Yeah. Hear that sound effects? That's where it is. Welcome to Crossing the Streams.
Yeah.
We're live. We're so
How
live.
you doing?
We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitter. We're live everywhere. We're live on Fireside. We got a special guest, Allison, with us today.
Hey,
So
Allison.
We're gonna
Hey,
before we do
everybody.
anything- Hey, we're gonna kick things off with a theme song like we always do.
Do it. Do it.
Then Allison, just make sure your phone is turned down. That's all. All right.
It should be down. Can you hear it?
Perfect. No, you're fine. Just want to make sure. All right, we're gonna theme song.
That was me, I think.
Go ahead, Allison.
Here's a story of some lonely fellows and a gal who spend way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really. Just between you and me.
Damn, you nailed it. Bob, take it.
Holy
They made a
moly.
live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff, Ron, Salon. Wait a minute. Let me start that again. Jeff, Ron, Salon, Bob. And there's Howard and Allison. They call it Crossing Streams.
Ron.
And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we cross the streams. Here we go.
We cross the
Cross
streams.
the streams.
We cross the
We cross
streams.
We cross the streams.
Hey, we
That's the way we do it here.
We cross the streams.
Da, da, da.
All right.
Nicely done.
I think that was one of the best theme songs ever.
All right,
Welcome,
awesome.
everybody, to Crossing the Streams. This is the ultimate show for your TV binge watching and movie watching suggestions. You are paying currently, and probably don't even realize, for 50 streaming stations. So much to watch, so much to do. We're here to help fill in the blanks. You're always asking yourself and your friends, what should I be watching? We're going to answer that today. We answer it every week. 52 episodes exist on YouTube. You can check those out. 52 hours of recommendations. This one is live on YouTube as we speak, and Fireside. Today, we're going to be talking about Downton Abbey, The Way Down, Tenet, and HOLIDATE. If you're commenting along or on Fireside, feel free to raise your hand and join the conversation. We do have a special guest with us today, one of my favorite podcasters, Allison Hare. Allison, tell us all about
Hey.
Nice, nice, Allison.
Hi, Allison.
Hey, I'm so excited to finally be here. Am I hearing an echo?
Bit of an echo. Somebody's got their volume on. No?
Do I have to mute it on Fireside? Is that it?
Turn your volume all the way down on your phone, and
On
that's
your phone, just your regular volume.
the actual.
Oh.
Yeah.
So not mute it, but just turn.
There you
Wait,
go.
no.
Yeah. Just turn
Yeah,
it
all
all
the way down, all the volume.
It's all the way
Nice.
down, but I'm
and
still
mute,
hearing it.
and mute yourself.
And mute. Okay. All right.
There you go.
All right. Good. It was the
Now
mute
you
thing. That was
sound
it.
good.
Yes.
You sound amazing.
Yes. So I'm so excited to finally be here.
We're so excited to have you. Tell everyone about your podcast.
Yeah, so I have a podcast. It's called Culture Changers. So I take some of the biggest topics that we deal with, break them down in a new way, kind of changing the status quo, and solve problems. And what's happened with this podcast, it's been around for 2.5 years. I have interviewed people like Seth Godin and Jesse Itzler and Heather Monahan, and have some really, really interesting, juicy topics. Is that what's happened recently is people are starting to do like discussion groups and have challenges around some of the topics that we have. So it's a really interesting perspective shifting podcast, and one I'm super proud of, and I just love it.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yes.
That is awesome.
People are always chitter chattering about my topics. There's a
All
whole
the time.
Wallace thread right now.
Jeff, I always love your posts that are like, I don't know if you know this, but I have a podcast.
Yeah.
Somehow,
Jeff says that
somehow
once
it's
in a
like
while,
after
too.
being the process of podcast advertising to your friends and family is speaking to no one. And so
Nobody.
after a year of it, then it just became a joke. Oh, you have a podcast? It just became a running joke. So I'm going to go with it, though. At least they're talking about me.
Jeff, I cannot believe that you are you've interviewed the mother from ET. Holy God.
I know, right?
80s queen.
I know. My latest episode of Live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show, D. Wallace. She's also amazing in Cujo and The Howling I watched for the first time. And one of the reasons I really wanted to watch The Howling is there was a TikTok video, it was really cute, that was going around from D. Wallace's daughter. And she got to see The Howling and her parents, her father who passed away, was starred with D. Wallace in the movie. And so it was a whole thing about how she got to see them on the big screen together for the first time. And it was pretty cool. So so awesome. We got an amazing show. So such a great show for everyone chiming in. We got our usual folks. Casey Ryan Plott is here, so that's good. And Jerry's here.
Hey, CRP, Jerry.
I'm sure Lee's here. We got some friends on we got Woody and Bob. Oh, that's Bob. Well, we got Woody at least on Fireside. Hey, Woody. And so anyway, so this is fun. So we're going to talk about a bunch of great shows. Just to recap real quick. Last week, episode 52, we talked about Foundation on Apple TV. Ron covered Made on Netflix, Made, M-A-I-D. And Brian Green, our guest, talked about The Thick of It, which is the British show that Veep is based on. And I talked about Live in front of a studio audience, which I find quite delightful. Today's show, we got a really great lineup today. We got, we're going to talk about Downton Abbey. That's a classic. We're going to talk about, Allison is loves cults and the way down God Green and the cult of Gwen Shamblin. I think Ron's a big cult fan too. So
I love cults.
Where are my
Already.
culters?
I'm starting to feel simpatico with Allison a little bit.
Bob's going to talk about Tenet, which is I'm not going to spoil that one. And then that's your foreshadow right there. Succession isn't the only show that does great foreshadowing. And then Sal is going to continue his holiday traditions this December with HOLIDATE. So that's exciting. Just as a recap, just as a running recap, are you guys? I'm caught up on Hawkeye. You guys caught up on Hawkeye?
Negative.
Okay, it's good. It's enjoyable. It's a nice little sub story. And then one of the fan favorite things happened in today's episode, but I won't ruin it. I am seeing Spider-Man tomorrow. I'm going to Ann Arbor to see it with my daughter. So I'll hopefully.
I saw that it's still got a perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's supposed to be incredible. They're calling it like the best, third movie ever.
Right.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be really, really good.
Now, a question for Allison about the cult
Yes.
things.
Yes.
I'm assuming you're up to speed on all the Nexium stuff, right?
Oh my God. Because you guys already talked about Nexium, that was off the table, but I am so under Keith Raniere's spell. I would totally join that cult. I'm getting a brand.
Got it. Oh, you're getting a brand? Nice.
I'm getting a brand.
Nice.
I'm a little late to the party, but I'm totally in.
Casey Ryan Plott would like to add, cults are swell. We agree.
It is. I like Casey.
And then Ron, just as Howard Rosner, who couldn't be with us again this week, but he watched Get Back and did a long review of it. It's an 8-hour show. He watched it twice. So I finished it. And part 3, when they do the rooftop concert footage, magical. It's like unbelievable.
Well, Jeff,
just to get to there.
So I have to tell you, since that comment I made last week that you rightfully dismissed, saying that, listen, it's not that exciting a show until it becomes exciting. It's like exciting parts spaced out by boring crap for 3 segments. But I'm glad to hear that the third one is better, because I have to tell you, honestly, I'm really having a hard time. I still haven't watched it because I can't get through it.
Well, it's sort of like when you kind of think about Get Back, it's like this band that, they just happen to have this 60 hours of footage of them creating an entire album in less than like 28 days. And that in itself is spectacular. I mean, that's amazing. And it isn't, and it's raw footage. It's like, I mean, they know they're being recorded, but sometimes they don't, or they're being caught by accident. But it's also just the rawness of like watching. And I think in part 3, George Harrison's writing one of his songs on the fly, something. They're like writing something on the fly, or you can see him creating Octopus Garden and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when I tell you in part 3, when they get on the rooftop, I don't know what it is, but all of a sudden when they're just playing live, which is completely different than when they're just sitting in and then kind of playing in the studio, is like, it's like magic. Like I like got a little emotional. And then the sad part about it is when you see the cops come in and they're like gonna stop it, and then the people on the street, and you're like, and none of them appreciate what's happening. I mean, we have the hindsight of 40, whatever years later, of knowing that this was
iconic,
a magical, iconic moment. And there's people complaining. They're like, they're so loud. They're so loud. That's what on the streets.
You know what I loved about the Get Back? I only saw like the first one, but what I loved is when they had like the Hare Krishna guy like hanging out in the corner, and they're like, "What? Who is this guy?" And they're like, "Oh, that's like, don't mind him. It's just the freaking Beatles, you know."
Right. And Yoko didn't say a word the whole time.
Yoko
it was a funny meme going around. It was like Yoko's every girlfriend at every open mic. All right. Well, let's. I know Bob is not feeling well, so I'm gonna let's cut over and talk about our first show, which is Tenet. Sometimes we talk about movies that you can stream once they're kind of solid on those platforms. So, Bob, take it away, my friend.
Okay, I appreciate that. Have I done the Fireside thing correctly? Are we ready? Are we going?
You're going. You're through. You're
okay.
Fireside, yeah.
So I should say, this is my second bout of COVID in a year. It's great.
Oh.
And vaccinated, but I'm muddling through. I'm going to be okay. I thought that since I'm not liking having to sit home for 10 days, I'm just in a bad mood. I thought I would review a movie that I hated. This is the first time I've ever done that. It's all, in all the episodes we've done, it's always been something that I loved and felt close to and wanted to talk about. But this Netflix keeps suggesting this to me. And I'm like, what do you know about me that makes you want to do this and ruin my day? And I thought, I'll go back and I'll try and watch it again. And I read all kinds of things about people who love this movie. It did 400 million at the box office. It was the first, movie that came out after the first lockdown, like what was it, August of 2020. And I went and saw it and was so frustrated, and I was just angry at the whole thing. I couldn't hear it. The sound was terrible. The acting is terrible. The story is terrible. And this is a Christopher Nolan movie, a guy, and I love everything he does. The biggest mistake they made was casting the lead, a guy named John David Washington. Do you know who this guy is?
Mm-hmm.
This is Denzel Washington's son.
Yeah,
this guy has the charisma of a mailbox. I don't know how they got him. I don't know why they did. He doesn't bring anything to this role at all. He's so boring. He never opens his mouth. It's like watching Sarah Paulson. It's like, just open your mouth when you speak. Can you just speak all the time? And it's so distracting. And he's this this secret agent. It just doesn't make any sense. And the whole thing is based on time travel, and we all love time travel movies, right? If they're done right. But everything is, a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but everything is wrong in this. It's boring. There is no levity. There's no let up from the grave circumstances that they put you in right at the beginning of the movie. And there's things that go on that you don't understand. There's no explanation for them. Like one of them is right within the first 15 minutes. John David Washington, my God, terrible. He's the there's a scene where he is trying to get this pill. It's a CIA pill. It's a suicide pill to kill himself, right? Because he's been caught, and he's gotten this artifact from, I'm not going to tell you where, and he somehow manages to. His captors see him trying to get this, and they don't want him to get it. But he manages to get it, and he bites down on it, and then he wakes up. He's in a hospital room. He's completely intact. You have no idea what's happened. The guy who is standing at the foot of his bed tells him, "Yeah, we had to reconstruct your mouth." I'm like, what? Wait a minute. What? Why? How? There's no scarring. He's got the same beard he had on in the last scene. Everything is the same. Nothing makes sense in this movie. Now, one of the things that I love about a good movie is that you can watch it a second or third or even a 10th time, if it's Willy Wonka, and see something new. But you don't have to watch it 10 times to understand it. It makes sense the first time. And people have reviewed this movie going, oh, I really enjoyed it the 5th time when I finally understood it. That's not a good movie, right? That's not entertaining. It's so frustrating. And the whole point of it is that they're trying to avert World War III, okay? And throughout all the machinations and all the craziness that goes on in here, and there are some cool concepts, I'll give them that. And I'm not kidding you, the end comes out, they're trying to stop global warming. What? Come on, you're back and forth from the future. You're in interdimensional space. What? It's global warming and an algorithm. So I just, I watched it a second time with a full-on hate. And I know that
you were committed.
I know I'm committed to hating this movie, and I hated it much more even the second time.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's Denzel Washington.
I'm firing it up
executive
right now to
producer or
stream.
something?
How was Michael Caine in it?
Michael Caine was Michael Caine. He can read the phone book, and he's awesome. He's just sort of there, and he's gone. And Kenneth Branagh, same
Kenneth
thing.
Branagh
He's
was in
good
this thing?
it.
Kenneth Branagh was in this thing?
Yes, fleetingly. Lots of fleeting stuff.
They probably were all doing Chris Nolan a favor. Larry Roberts says hi, Allison.
I
Hello.
see that. Hey, Larry.
Now, you saw Inception, right? Inception was confusing, but you got it in the end. And then you watched it a second time and you picked up things you missed, but you knew what was going on. And there was a beginning, a middle, and an end. This thing is a disaster. So, I may be showing my age here, my COVID brain. I don't know, but I had to trash it publicly.
How was Robert Pattinson?
He was fine. There was just nothing about any of them that I didn't care about any of them. They could have all been blown up. I didn't give a shit. And, I guess I will say this about Pattinson. I liked him. Because that's the first movie I've seen him in where he wasn't sparkly, right? I had to watch those movies with my daughter. So he was good. Yeah.
You had to.
Yeah. Yeah, well, someone had to take her.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Well, sorry to be a negative.
Bob, I feel like this is a good side of you. Like, you're right. I think almost, I'd have to go through the records here, but I don't know that you've ever, purposefully, given us a negative review.
I never have.
Well, it is one aspect of the show, right? We're trying to tell people to watch stuff that we recommend, but also if we can save you an hour
or three,
right?
Now, have you seen it, Jeff? Have you guys
multiple
seen Tenet?
times.
Community service. So
I've never seen it. How old is this movie?
it's not
A
old.
year?
Yeah, it's practically new. It's 2020. Yeah, it's 2.5 hours. And I'm not sure I ever understood Inception, so I didn't.
Yeah.
But
That's a walk in the park compared to Tenet. And at least in Inception, there was some rousing set pieces. In Tenet, you just don't care. I didn't care about anybody. I'm like, I can't hear anything. I don't understand what they're saying. die, all of you. I don't care.
Bob, I just have to say, as much as I want you to get better quickly, COVID Bob has an edge to him that I kind of enjoy. I have to say.
Okay, all right.
COVID Bob. It's like when you get the raspy voice, when you get a Demi Moore voice going, you sound amazing.
Yeah,
there's an edge
I
to
had
him
that for a few
that's
days.
familiar.
All right. Well, Bob, thank you for saving
Nicely
us.
done,
Yeah, Bob.
Tenet.
All right.
All right. Well, next, this one is exciting. We're going into the cult with Allison. This is called The Way Down: God, Greed, and the Cult of Gwen Shamblin. I cannot wait to hear about this.
So if you guys know or have kind of been out in the zeitgeist, the cults are everywhere. And what is cool about it, there are a couple of podcasts. There's one called Sounds Like a Cult, which are all the cults that we are kind of part of. So it might be church or NFL football or Soul Cycle. And then there's one called Was I in a Cult? And so I stumbled on this new one called The Way Down. And it is on Gwen Shamblin. And it is a cult documentary about Gwen Shamblin, who runs this church. It's called Remnant Church. It's right in Tennessee. Franklin? Is it Franklin?
Yep. Yeah, that sounds right.
Franklin, Tennessee. And it is the whole concept is about God wants you to be skinny. And so it was called The Way Down, WEIGH, The Way Down. And so it was this whole ministry around being skinny. And so I guess she's this charismatic woman who kind of goes into it feeling called by the Lord to help people lose weight through ministry. And all of a sudden it turns into this crazy cult of people that, it is that the classic us versus them. But what's so fascinating about this series is that, at first they show her and she looks like a hot 90s mom. And all of a sudden that blonde hair starts getting bigger and taller and her clothes get more flashy. But I kept thinking about, there's something about Mary, when you see that big hair poop.
Yeah.
How does it stay there? And so what's crazy about this is there are these cult documentarians who are doing this whole thing about her. It really is so fascinating of what happens, how people get entangled in cults. And what I think is so interesting is we all think, well, we are too smart. We would not be dumb enough to get sucked up into a cult, but it is so much closer than you think. And so I've done a lot of homework on it, and it's so easy, like even the Nexium cult, like I would totally be into it, like a whole lifestyle on self-improvement, like who wouldn't sign up for that? It sounds like a utopian world. And so, and this one, I guess, wrapped up in ministry. What is so fascinating is that they were about to wrap up and get ready to publish this documentary. Gwen Shamblin and her weird, husband that's like 20, 30 years younger than she is, who has no job and is clearly an opportunist. They die in a plane crash. And that plane crash was on its way to a Trump rally, which is funny in itself. And so
the largest cult in the world.
Wait, she died with her husband in a plane crash?
Yes. And so certainly not planned, but just, happened. So they had released this documentary, and I believe that they are going to release some new episodes kind of as the aftermath, because this all happened. She died in May of this year. And so it just came out like a couple of months ago. Wow. And I think, it was so popular, and they, thought they might need some new episodes to kind of figure out what happens after. And so her daughter is kind of taken over. But I couldn't imagine and that Remnant Church is still thriving. It's still going on, still holding services. It's just wild.
And where is this? Where is this show?
HBO Max.
HBO Max.
I gotta check
Yeah, boy,
that out.
HBO Max seems to have the corner on the cult shows because HBO Max did the Nexium cult series as well.
I don't know
That's-
that I
Yeah.
saw that. Well, I saw The Vow. Was that on HBO?
That was on
Okay.
HBO. The Vow, yeah.
There's another one. There's another one that I haven't seen that that looks so fascinating too. But I freaking love cults. I think they're amazing. I think they're.
My
We
wife.
all
was
want to
obsessed
belong.
with that. Yeah, my wife.
Yeah,
was
we all
obsessed
want to
with the
belong
Nexium
somewhere.
one.
And
I
she-
watched. I can't remember the name of it. I watched the one where the tennis shoes, where they all
Oh,
with
yeah.
they to catch
The
the
comet.
UFO, they killed themselves.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they
the
held up
Nike.
comment.
Those
Yeah.
were the
Heaven's
Nike
Gate.
ones.
Yeah,
Heaven's Gate.
Gates. I mean,
That's
that's you watch that. It's like, it's kind of like, these it's the same thing. I think that plays into the conspiracy theories. Why conspiracy theories work? It taps into those unknown things or things that are missing in your life. Excuse me, and it fills it in a way, and then it's like you feel like, well, you're part of something, and no
Mhm.
one else gets it, but that makes you feel better because we all get it, and it's I can see where people can get sucked into that. You can get
there was a comment in the Nexium series where one of the protagonists that's being chronicled says, no one ever joins a cult. Like, you don't join cults. You don't realize you're in a cult. Like you're joining something that you think solves, to your point, Jeff, something specific, and it's not until afterwards, usually when the police are involved, that you find out, oh shit, I was in a cult. That's like
when they're performing an extraction on you.
I know. So I had the host of Was I in a Cult on my podcast. And so the overwhelming thought around it is that it always takes one charismatic leader, end of story. And that is what people buy into, and that us versus them. And can you leave? Can you leave?
Yeah.
Can you leave without consequences? A lot of people ask about multi-level marketing like Mary Kay or LuLaRoe. I don't know if you've ever talked about Lula Rich here, but there's so many people just want to feel like they're a part of something. They want to feel like they belong and people get them and that they're doing good things for the world and they are making things better. And it's really fascinating to see how people get caught up in that, and they realize when it's a little too late that it was a cult, and like they have to unwind themselves from it.
Allison, have you seen the Leah Remini on Netflix about Scientology?
Yeah, that's good.
I think I saw something a couple of years ago. I think it was called Going Clear. I don't know if that was
that was the one. That was
I think Leah Remini has been doing a lot of those things. Yeah. And the Scientology thing is so bananas to me. And Leah Remini, I don't know. The victim thing is so hard that I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I
get it. But yeah, Scientology is give it all to me.
I feel like Scientology and the Nexium thing are similar in that a big part of their foundation was they tried to attract super powerful people from Hollywood. Right.
So here's the thing. What I learned about this.
Only got the girl from Smallville.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Smallville. Yeah.
So this will make sense to you. Were any of you guys part of Young Life growing up?
No.
You know what Young Life is? So it's like this young Catholic group where they kind of go into people's homes and then they do Bible studies, and it's, like they're supposed to do those things. I had no idea about this. What I learned is that they have people go to high schools and they watch and they look and see who are the most popular kids. Those are the people that they groom. And so I remember the football players would have, like the Young Life groups or have people over, for those things, because they're far more, it's so much easier to legitimize if you can get a celebrity, somebody with status, somebody with money, somebody who's popular. Yeah. And I just thought that was beyond fascinating.
Allison, you mentioned Lula Rich, which I was about to mention. We watched the first episode, maybe 2 episodes. I think it's maybe only like 4 episodes. it's about this multi-level marketing for those who don't
Yeah.
know. And you pay like, I don't know, 5-10 grand and you get these clothes, which I can't
Girl
imagine.
boss. Hashtag girl boss.
I can't imagine anybody wearing those clothes, but whatever.
Yeah.
And, but this is the funny part is we watched it months ago. Amazon Prime will not leave us alone. It shows up as a recommended thing every time I open my Fire Stick. Every time my wife's like, "Why does it keep doing it?" I'm like, I'm like, we're gonna have to watch it just so it'll stop recommending it. But yeah, that was an interesting one. Some of these things you watch it and you're like, it's incredible what some of these people can pull off. But it's always the hope, the dream, be better, all that kind of stuff. So
it is built on the American dream, like build your little Walmarts and, at a very low investment and be a hashtag girl boss. And it leaves a lot to be desired, sadly.
Well, leaving a lot to be desired, sadly, is the perfect segue into Sal's
Nicely done, Jeff.
Sal, king of the not necessarily on Hallmark, but the Hallmark Christmas movies.
Oh my gosh, Sally.
I will say I've been starting to repurpose some of the segments from Crossing the Streams on my podcast on Thursdays as bonus episodes. And not this week, but next week, I took from the Christmas episodes, and I had to include 2 of Sal's. I did Elf for me. The only reason I didn't include Green Room, Bob, was
Green Book.
Green Book.
Oh,
it was all the clicking. But I had to include. I did a Sal sandwich, so everyone can look forward to that. But this
I
one,
love Green Book.
this one is exciting. So, talk to us about the Emma Roberts classic, HOLIDATE.
Okay, well, as Jeff just said, I'm doing my Christmas movie special for the month of December. I'll have another one next week, and then hopefully another one on December 30th. But anyway, so let me explain HOLIDATE to our millions of listeners out there. Bob might know this since he's a single lad. HOLIDATE is when you only want a date for the holidays because you don't want to go to family gatherings, whether it's Christmas, a wedding, St. Patrick's Day party, whatever you got to do. You don't want to be bombarded from your relatives saying, "Why aren't you married?" and all that. So that's what a HOLIDATE concept is. It's very well known in the dating community, and that's what this movie's all about. It stars Emma Roberts and get his name right, Luke Bracey, this Australian guy. So obviously, good-looking couple. And she is, they're both in Chicago. And basically, it's the concept of the movie is they meet in line, returning something at a store, and they start talking and all that. And then they say that, I have to go to a family gathering. Why don't you go with me? And we'll do the HOLIDATE thing. So that's the concept. And their first one is a Christmas party. Then they decide to go out on New Year's Eve and do the same thing. Then they're going out. Then she says no on Valentine's Day. She goes, "I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to have a HOLIDATE with you anymore. Hopefully I'll be dating somebody by the time the next holiday rolls around." And she's not, but she doesn't. He's like texting her, and he doesn't want to do the Valentine's Day holiday with her. What is there? 9 million people in Chicago. They end up seeing each other at like a store. With her ex-boyfriend is in the same store. So all 3 of them are meet up in a 9 million people city. So it's just ironic how that happens in these rom-coms.
That sounds like my single life.
But anyway, so they end up agreeing to go on a Valentine's date because of this encounter that they had in the store. Anyway, not to bore you, they go through all the holidays. They become HOLIDATEs for all these holidays, and I'm talking Cinco de Mayo, St. Patrick's Day. I'm not kidding you.
Labor Day,
July 4th, July 4th party,
Flag Day,
every Flag Day, every single holiday,
National Daughters Day,
Tu B'Shvat.
Tu B'Shvat, right? Simchas Torah.
So you guys get the picture, and it's kind of just to talk a little bit about the movie. That part kind of drags on a little bit because there's just too many holidays that they're doing this on it. By the way, great cast in this, great supporting cast. Frances Fisher plays Sloane's mother. She does a great job in this. She's very well known. You guys all know movies, and Kristen Chenoweth does a very good job in this as well. So it's got that fun kind of cast to it, and there are really cool moments in it. There's some really like raunchy jokes like right in the middle of a part that you think will be like a Hallmark part, and then all of a sudden they just stick in. It's almost like watching an Anthony Jeselnik joke. You know, it just comes in from left field, and I thought they did that pretty well. I thought that was it had some really good moments of that. But for the most part, it's gotten some bad reviews out there, as I wanted to see the reviews from everybody else. And it's really gotten a lot of bad reviews. I don't know if it's as bad as these reviews are saying. It does kind of linger on throughout all the holidays. And it's got some cheesy parts in it, too, at the end. I don't even want to – I mean, obviously, you probably can guess what happens at the end with these two. But it just kind of dragged on. And the end is very, very cheesy. I won't even – tell you what happened. They met at a mall, just so you know.
Is it global warming?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, seriously, Washington's son should have probably been in this, Denzel's son. But anyway, it wasn't that great. There's other romantic rom-com holiday movies that you can see. I'm going to give this 3 tomato sauce jars.
3 tomato sauce jars.
Yeah, that's it. Emma Roberts is really good.
Are there labels on it?
Sally, I honestly, I thought you were going to give it from the description of this. I thought this was going to be like 1 jar, maybe like a half a jar.
I don't
usually
3 go
jars?
that low. I need at least. I got to have a little sauce on my spaghetti. At least.
Sal is the nicest guy in show business.
So Sal,
He would give
I give it
jars.
I give it 3 sauce jars because of the few raunchy jokes that it had in it. I like Emma Roberts. I think she's good, and I like Frances Fisher in it. It had some moments. It just dragged on way too long for all the holidays. They could have cut about like you guys were just joking about. They could have cut 3-4 holidays, made this movie an hour long. Would have been fine.
Kristen Chenoweth, I think the greatest crime against man was when Pushing Daisies was cut short. Did you guys ever watch that show?
Yes, very inventive show.
So great. So great. So I'm a big fan of Kristen Chenoweth. So, all right. Well, Sal, would you say like if you're like just adding on, it's fine. It's a good holiday film, even though it's not one of the best ones. If you're in the mood for that kind of movie.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're in the mood for that kind of movie, you got a Netflix account. You don't have to spend more money on top of more. You know, it's Netflix. I wouldn't go to the movie and see this. I wouldn't.
I mean, I got to be honest with you, Sally. This sounds like the last movie you watch before you give up. This is like the last thing
it was
you
tough
see.
to stomach through, man. I'm like, how many more holidays are these guys going to do this? That they never have sex, you know? I mean, come on.
Well, so how does the movie end? I mean, for the 0.01% of the people that are going to watch that are listening.
Okay. So basically
everyone else will never watch this movie just for us.
Well, no, that's fine. Real quick, they end up the theme of the movie is the holidays, but they end up getting drunk together at a lot of these holiday dates that they have. But the earlier holidays, they never got together with each other. Sometimes they got together with other people because they were drunk. While the Halloween party, they end up finally sleeping together.
Shit.
Yeah, and then they start to realize that they really kind of love each other, like each other, whatever. And then then Thanksgiving, they don't even go out on Thanksgiving. They don't do a holiday on Thanksgiving. They don't even go out together. That's their first holiday that they don't go out. And she realizes that she misses him. He realizes that she misses her. And they meet up at a mall. And so somehow he runs into her at a mall again. 9 million people.
Romance.
He goes to the same mall.
Probably at the Cinnabon.
She takes the mic away from Santa and does this big, ending that's supposed to be romantic when, the guy falls and runs to her and all that, and then, you know that scene. You've seen it.
Yeah, like at
Well,
the end of when Harry met
it
Sally.
doesn't
When
work.
you
It doesn't
realize
work.
you want to spend the rest of your life with someone,
You want the
doesn't
rest of
work.
their life to begin as soon as possible.
I just have to say this. Kudos to you, my friend, my partner. You got through more than one of these things.
Oh, I love these movies.
I love
I really
these.
do. I do.
This
I
is like
do.
the fifth
I'll
one
watch-
of these.
I really do. I'll watch them all the time. Ever since I saw Grease when I was a kid, you know. Just like these movies. Grease, Can't Buy Me Love. Come on, man. Flamingo Kid.
Well, those were good.
Come on.
Well, I'm going
mean,
way back, you know.
You just compared Holiday to Can't Buy Me Love. That's
True.
That's
Very
a
true.
stretch.
Too funny. All right. Oh, speaking of which, is anyone watching the new Sex in the City?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's okay. Let's.
Yeah.
I'll bring
I
it.
heard that was unwatchable, also, wasn't it?
I want to make sure we get in Downton Abbey, and then we'll talk.
Oh,
All right, let's talk about this. Is a classic. I gotta admit, I always thought it was Downtown Abbey, and that's not even meant.
Me
to
too.
yeah, yeah.
And but I'm glad it is Downton Abbey,
Oh.
and so I'm gonna Ron convince us.
I mean, listen, we're four dudes, five dudes that have traditionally done this show. Allison, we are so pleased to have you here because you add the estrogen that I think this show needed, and apparently now I am adding the estrogen that this show needed.
I'm
because
into it.
What the hell am I doing right now? Reviewing freaking Downton Abbey with a bunch of dudes. How hard are you guys going to laugh at me for even bringing this up? And because of that, I want recognition on the front end, knowing I'm about to be ripped and shredded and laughed at by all you guys for reviewing Downton Abbey. I want the cred
Sal
on the front
just
end.
reviewed HOLIDATE. I think this is the safest moment of your entire life.
I watched The Lake House today and loved it. You're okay.
I appreciate that. So look, let's be honest. This was not a Netflix algorithm show. This was not recommended to me on any level. This was simply an answer to a question from my wife a month ago or 3 weeks ago, saying, "What should we watch? We're done watching everything. What are we both going to like?" I know. Let's look at Downton Abbey. And I'm like, I'm not friggin' watching, 20th century aristocrat bullshit in England. I'm not doing that. That sounds
Why not?
boring. It sounds exhausting is what it sounds like. Now, fast forward 3 weeks. I am 30 something episodes into this thing. I am just beginning the fourth season of this show. First, have you guys watched any of this? I know Allison, obviously you have, but the rest of you guys, you haven't watched this. Don't tell me you've watched this.
I haven't, but
you haven't,
it
right?
looks like something I'd like.
I haven't watched it because I didn't want to watch it. I just haven't watched it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't wrong. It is exhausting, but I will just say I am going to give this thing its propers that it is an impressive show. They take on just a wide spectacle of issues. And by the way, do you guys know the basic premise of the show? Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I think so.
So just real quickly for folks who
They
don't know.
totally don't.
They don't. So it's British aristocracy, right? It's a mansion Downton Abbey in Yorkshire, England, south of London. It's been passed down from generation to generation from the family, and the moment the show begins is when the heir to Downton Abbey is killed on the Titanic. That's when the show begins. So what happens is that this unknown gentleman who's a working class guy in England gets like a letter in the mail one day saying, come to Yorkshire. We have something to talk to you about. And he comes down and he's the heir to the whole freaking estate.
King Ralph.
Like King Ralph, exactly. Except the current family that is older now and has daughters, right? Because it's British aristocracy, it passes through the males. They're still there, but this new guy is now there too, and thus begins the what they call the upper floor story, which is the people who live at the estate and are the aristocracy. Then, in parallel to these stories, is the lower floor story, which is all the workers and all the people that support Downton Abbey. And what I have found out through 30-something episodes of Downton Abbey are a couple things. First off, it turns out that whether you work on the bottom floor or the top floor, you hate each other just the same. The workers hate each other and scheme and plot against each other, and the aristocracy on the floor above them, they hate each other and plot against each other. And sometimes they involve each other in each other's schemes, and it turns into one giant mess. They're marrying each other, they're screwing each other, they're using each other. I mean, it is just one endless play of people using each other after another. And,
well, how does the money keep going if this guy is just plucked from obscurity?
It's actually funny that you mentioned that, and I don't want to ruin too much. And Allison, you probably know where I'm about to go with this, but there is in season 3 is in the stock market crash in the 20s, and the money does go away. But miraculously, they find another means of money to save the estate, and it goes on. I'll tell you after season 4 if they did that correctly. I don't know, but that's been a big storyline: is where's the future money going to come from? And it's been great. Hugh Bonneville is the star of the show. He is the British. He's the Earl of Grantham, who is an older gentleman who now is forced to give this unknown heir, Downton Abbey. If you don't know who Hugh Bonneville is, he's been in a bunch of stuff. I loved him in Notting Hill. He's got a classic scene in the movie Notting Hill where he asks, what's her name, how much she makes in her movies. And she goes, well, the last movie I made $15 million. And he's got a great scene where he looks right in the camera and said, well, that would be a lot then, wouldn't it? And so that's a funny scene. He's more of a comic actor. So him in Downton Abbey, as a very serious senior role in the show it's impressive. It shows his breadth and scale. There are just endless amazing famous actors that are strewn throughout this show. Probably the one who steals most of the episodes, the one that my wife and I laugh at the most, is Maggie Smith, who is 119 years old. God. And
she's still around.
I'm telling you, Bob, she is freaking hilarious in this show. She just the writing for her, whoever did the writing for Maggie Smith, she owes that guy or gal a ton of money, because she delivers whiz bang hilarious lines throughout this show as the elder aristocrat who doesn't give a shit about anybody and doesn't give a shit what she says or does because she's so old. Right. And that allows you a lot of humor that comes out of the show, which up until that moment usually is a very stiff and formal British aristocratic method. And then Maggie Smith comes in and says something outlandishly hilarious. So it is a good show. It's a wonderful show. I do get that it is as I said, it is exhausting. It is quite an endeavor to get through it. It's 6 seasons. Each episode is an hour or longer. Actually, some episodes are even longer. But I dare say to you, for all those folks that are Marvel fans and love all the action and all the CGI and all the cool stuff that I think make today's modern show, this has none of that, and it's still a really good show. It's funny. It's warm. I think the acting and the writing is fantastic. The production, you cannot fault the production at all. It is an amazing, beautifully shot show that you cannot deny. And if you're looking for something to take your mind off stuff, each episode is in and of itself a great story, and I recommend it. So I don't know how many
chamber pots do you give?
Yeah,
it?
how many chamber pots? I'm going to give this 4.5 stabs in the back between the upstairs and downstairs crews.
Oh Lord!
So I'll pause there. What do you guys think?
I think, yeah. I mean, it's my problem when you're behind is like it's a big thing to say, all right, especially now that you said some of these are longer than an hour. It's like, okay, 52 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I
But
mean?
let's
It's
talk
like-
about Breaking Bad, right?
Yeah,
that moved.
That's
Yeah.
fair. But Breaking Bad has a lot of the benefit of, I mean, frankly, of murder and violence and some of the things that I think sell
That are
easier
important.
than less, you know, I'll just say more story than
Yeah.
that.
So speaking of Downton Abbey, there's this new show coming out, and it happens to have Cynthia Nixon in it, who is in the new Sex and the City reboot
like
as
her.
well. But it's called The Gilded Age,
Mm.
and it looks like from the preview, it's on HBO Max. It looks like it's a Downton Abbey that takes place in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the vibe I got from the.
I will add one last thing, Jeff, before we get to open whatever we're going to use the rest of the time for. Elizabeth McGovern is the lone American actress in the original cast before they bring in other folks. And I don't know if you remember
Isn't
Elizabeth
Shirley
McGovern.
MacLaine play her mother?
Shirley MacLaine plays her mother, but
Yeah.
she's kind of a side character.
Sure.
Okay.
But Elizabeth McGovern's in every episode, and she's not good. I'm not gonna lie. With the acting so amazing and this show so beautifully shot, I will just say Elizabeth McGovern, in my opinion, is just completely outshined in terms of her acting ability. But you got to remember, she's up against just some amazing talent on Downton Abbey. And Elizabeth McGovern is a very average actor. So I will just say that if I had to point out any weak spot to the whole movie, leave it to the lone American on the cast, the day-to-day cast, to bring this show down. But other than that, it's extremely well done.
Thank you. Great review.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Do we have time to do a quick Cynthia Nixon story? I promise it'll be less than 60 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd love
Okay,
to hear it.
I don't know why she popped up in this show, but this has stuck with me for so many years. Sal and Jeff, you might have worked with this guy. Richie Byrne is his name. Really funny New York comedian. Love the guy. And it was out at Chaplin's. And I worked with him again.
Maybe
really funny guy. And he did a lot of work on the original Sex and the City. Is it In the City or And the City? I have no idea. In or and? Sex and the City. Okay.
And
Never seen an episode of it, but I know all the women, and I know what the deal. I think I know what the deal is. Anyway, he was telling me this story about how he was on the first 4 seasons of it. When it first started, and Cynthia Nixon was just a raging bitch every day on set, just a complete bitch. Kim Cattrall was wonderful. Sarah Jessica Parker, wonderful. Kristen Davis is her name. Kristen, whatever. Loved them all, and they would have lunch together and everything. And Cynthia Nixon was just insufferable. So he had like a every other episode part. I don't know if he's a doorman or something like that, and he had speaking parts, but he was written out. And so he was walking around the set saying goodbye to everybody. And Cynthia Nixon wouldn't even turn around. So he said, and I know Richie, he says, I told her, hey, tapped her on the shoulder. She turned around. He said, you're the ugly one, right?
Wow.
Dude,
Wow.
That's such a New York thing to do.
I worked with Craig Gass. He was the overeater that overate her. That episode.
That's a good one.
That was a famous one. And then I worked with Richie Byrne. And my wife, huge Sex and the City fan. Like and she was so excited for the reboot. She rewatched the entire series. I mean, there was a time where if I bought her a Sex and the City trivia game, that was like a big deal because she would knew everything. Like she was obsessed with it. We had the DVDs, everything, back when that was a thing. And so Richie Byrne's like, oh, does she want my autograph? And I said, actually, no, she doesn't. He writes one anyway. I have it still. I have it. And it's like, give this to your wife. I don't care if he wrote it really funny. Like, I don't care if she doesn't want it. She's getting it. And, but yeah, that was funny. I don't remember him being in that many episodes. I remember him being in one episode where they go to like Vegas and I think he calls her fat or something like that. But,
people
Or
love.
one of them. He says something disparaging.
I think everyone on that show seems to be a target. Did you guys ever watch Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of Comedy, his animated shorts? It was on
haven't
YouTube
watched,
for a
but I love
while, and
MacFarlane.
one of the funniest ones that I always think of when I think of Sarah Jessica Parker is this. It's like a 10-second video. A horse walks into a bar, and these guys are telling really racially insensitive jokes, and the horse gets really mad at the guys, and they're like, "Okay, we got off to a really bad start. I'm really sorry. I'm Al. This is Dave. Let us buy you a drink. What's your name?" And there's a close up on the horse, and he goes, "Sarah Jessica Parker." And so
that poor woman has heard that.
Every time I hear Sarah Jessica Parker's name, I think of that stupid Seth MacFarlane cartoon.
Truth be told, Seth MacFarlane is like my Brad Pitt. Like he's funny, he can act, he can sing, he's so talented, he's so creative, he's handsome. He is like my Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's your Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt is my Brad Pitt, but the oh man. So all right.
He was Seth MacFarlane was with Tom Cruise and Charlize Theron on the what's the British
the
talk show. Yeah, the talk show guy.
What you're talking about, though.
What's the really famous British talk show guy?
I know. I watched.
You know who I'm talking about.
Anyway,
he's the most famous British talk show guy. But when I tell you, with Tom Cruise and Charlize Theron and
Graham Norton,
and this guy, and Graham Norton, thank you. And when I tell you, Seth MacFarlane just friggin' owned that room. I mean. Yeah. They all shut up and just listen to him go. And he's so freaking talented that even in a room with the biggest stars out there, it's still the Seth MacFarlane show.
Yeah,
sure.
And then he went on. Then he went on to do the Taken monologue in the voice of Kermit the Frog, and it's the funniest thing on YouTube. If you ever wanted to laugh your ass off, go type that
in. Did you just snort, Jeff?
I think I did. That's probably a good time to end the show. What a great episode. We covered so many fun things. Tenet, don't watch it. Downton Abbey, watch it. The Way Down, watch it. HOLIDATE, if you've got nothing else going on. Watch it. Did I sum it up pretty good? Allison, thank you so much. Remind everyone where they can keep up with you and say goodnight.
Yes. They can go on Instagram, Allison__hair, 2 underscores and 2 L's, and Culture Changers Podcast. It was an honor and so much fun to be with you guys. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Sal.
Good night, everybody. SalDemilio.com.
That's quick.
All right. You can see me at Funniest Funny Comedy Club in Lansing, Michigan, January 14th through the 17th. And every month at Genetti's Hole in the Wall Theater with my partner Sal, the Sal and Bob Show.
Yay. And Ron, Lippy Pants.
Wednesday nights, 9:30, Crossing the Streams and other select podcasts. Stay tuned.
And I'm Jeff Dwoskin, host of Live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show, the #1 podcast in the whole world. And I invite you back here every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'll see you next time. And that has been another episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow the Jeff Dwoskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff Dwoskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio. We're all in the socials. Follow us. Listen to our podcast, live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show, the Sal and Bob Show. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you then.